Hi, my name is Julie Stigmeyer, and I work with the Writing Studio and the School of Education at Concordia University, Irvine, as a writing success coach. Today I'm going to share a little bit about how to write a literature review in a few different steps here. We'll talk about synthesizing, organizing, structuring, and then applying synthesis to your lit review. When we think about writing skills, we know about two for sure that we can work with. One is paraphrasing, and that means to restate another's ideas in your own words. And another is to quote and also use that writer's ideas, but their exact words. And both of them require citation. But paraphrasing is usually preferred in academic writing, and partly because it gives you this flexibility to summarize and synthesize information, to focus on what's really significant for your study, and to compare and contrast relevant details, and that is paraphrased from the APA manual. So two of the skills we use a lot in academic writing are summarizing, where you take a big amount of information and you only focus on the main points. So you take something big and make it smaller. And synthesizing, where we combine many ideas into a coherent whole. So, and just to, as a quick reminder, literature, when we talk about literature reviews, that refers to research, okay? And synthesis is the main skill we're going to use for those literature reviews. I really like this diagram from the University of Arkansas because this is Bloom's taxonomy, and I like how it shows it explains these different factors of the taxonomy. So when we start here at the bottom, that's like the very basic learning skill. And as we move up the taxonomy, we get to the point where it's really higher level critical analysis and even creation. And this was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, this was edited to actually add this. It kind of changed things around a little bit, but this top level of creating was added. And when we're summarizing, we're probably using, I don't know, maybe evaluation or analysis. But when we are synthesizing, we're really at this top level of the taxonomy where we combine many parts to make a new whole. So let me explain what I mean by that a little bit more. So the purpose of a literature review is to inform the reader about key trends or themes that are emerging from recent research. And then that leads you to be able to point out the gaps in the research. So that's really the goal when you're writing a dissertation, or really any type of paper that a literature review supports, because you want to show what's already been done in the research, and then here's the gap, here's the area that still needs to be researched. And that's what kind of justifies your project moving forward. And the idea is that you organize the literature around these themes or trends. So let's talk about that synthesis skill a little bit more. When you are first working on your literature review, you're gathering information from all these different sources. And so you could think about each of your research studies being like one of these cats. So you've got all these researchers looking at you, and you're trying to figure out what they're all trying to say, and it's just kind of a jumble of information at the beginning. And so what we then try to do is do a little summary. We read each study and then try to really understand the main findings from that study. And from that, you might write an annotated bibliography. An annotated bibliography is simply a list of your sources with a summary for each. And so it might look like this, where you have read study A and you really understand it, and so you list out the reference details and then summarize its main points in just a few lines. Then you go on with several other studies, could be up to 10 or 20 for a shorter paper and many more for a dissertation. So if you ever, part of the process is ever to include an annotated bibliography, you're just doing this one at a time. But when you get to your literature review, you're actually synthesizing, so it's a different skill. So now what we're doing is gathering those researchers into common spaces. So if you think about a section of your paper being like this circle, and you've got these 4 researchers who, or many more, who have found one particular thing in their research, and you've arranged this as one of the themes in your paper. Well, you've got these different voices, and since you've discovered that they have something in common, there could be that comparison between them. But they also might differ in how they did the studies, or their methodology, or their one finding that differed a little bit. And so this is what you're doing in this theme, is showing how these researchers came together and maybe how they differed a little. And then you go on to the next theme and describe how, under this bigger topic, you've got these researchers reporting this sub-theme or this idea that emerged from all of their studies. And I just want to point out here that you can have overlap between those sections. It just kind of depends on your topic and how you break it down. And this could go on for several more themes, especially for a dissertation. This could be, you could maybe have 5 or 6 themes. It just depends. So now let me talk a little bit about organization. So here we have all our researchers. We're going back to step 1. And with that, in terms of your writing, it might look like this. So you're maybe on an Excel spreadsheet or in an app that you're using or a program. You're listing and compiling all these different studies together. And for the purpose of this presentation, I created a sample topic about the benefits or the effects of gratitude interventions. And I just listed them willy-nilly. There's no real organization here, even though, they're all fairly recent studies. That's pretty much they have 2 similarities. They're current, maybe more. They're current, they're credible, they're peer-reviewed, and each one is under this bigger topic of the benefits of gratitude interventions. So, but within this grouping, they're scattered, and they could be further grouped into those themes. So, for example, this first one says that if gratitude interventions are practiced, there might be greater social connectedness connected to subjective well-being. Or this one, lower levels of depressive symptoms. Or this one found that gratitude could lead to romantic relationship satisfaction. So these are all under that bigger topic, but they have different sub-themes, so we can group them together separately. So then what I did was I just color-coded them, and to show that, okay, this Lau and Wing study found that subjective well-being better or increased subjective well-being was one of their findings. That went along with these other 2 as well. But you also notice that under this same study, we could link social connectedness to these others on strengthened relationships. So you can see how this one study could actually work with 2 themes. And then we have 3 in blue that show that there was a decrease in depressive symptoms. So then the next step would be gathering these together. So for my first theme, which would encompass maybe the first part of the literature review, I could describe how the research showed that life satisfaction and subjective well-being were improved. And I would use these sources to back that up, comparing them throughout that theme. And then the same with the one on strengthened relationships and the decreased depressive symptoms. So that's kind of what you're going for, is you're taking this just piece by piece, baby step by baby step, trying to find those themes. And so your structure, you'll of course use whatever the writing prompt is that you are given, but this is just a very basic organization where you introduce the theme, the topic rather, and then add a preview of the themes to be discussed. And that could come out in an overview statement, which I'll tell you about more in just a moment. But this is basically a thesis, and you're showing here's what the research says about this topic in one simple sentence. And then you would break down your presentation of the themes into separate sections. And these would continue for several paragraphs or pages, depending on the length of your work. And then at the end, you would summarize by saying, kind of reflecting back to the introduction, here is what was discussed. Your literature review at this point might also go to pointing out the gaps in the research. So those would be this is just kind of a basic organization. That overview statement is a single sentence that you can create toward the end of your introduction that will encapsulate all of the ideas in the paper. So it gives you that topic and then your roadmap or blueprint of what you have identified those themes as. So for example, with my extended example here, I have my topic, the effects of gratitude interventions, beginning the sentence. And that would include, and then here's my preview, these three themes that I've already discovered. And then within those sections is where I would discuss the research. And then what you're kind of doing in this statement is promising, you're kind of making a contract with the reader. Here's what I'm showing you is going to happen in the paper, and here's the order it's going to happen in. So then your reader would expect to see those themes emerge in your paper. And you could use headings to help guide the reader. Oh, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that was in the overview statement. So now all this is coming together. The last thing I want to show you is an example of a well-synthesized paragraph. And this is a nicely developed paragraph. It's a good length, for one thing. In academic writing, you want to try for about 5 to 8 sentences. You also want to start your paragraphs broadly. Start and end your paragraphs. So the topic here is that teen pregnancy is experienced differently across ethnic and racial groups. And then at the end of the paragraph, it says, because of these disparities among ethnic groups, it's important to further study how best to support adolescents experiencing teen pregnancy. So you start and end your paragraph broadly. And then as you continue looking at this paragraph, we'll see, are there any quotes? And the answer is no. We have all paraphrases in this paragraph, which is shown by the citations at the end of each sentence, except for just one. So it's really well substantiated. Each claim is followed by a citation, which then shows that, there's a credibility to the writer of this paragraph, because all of those claims are supported by evidence. The next thing is that you can see there are multiple citations in this paragraph. What this means is that the sentence in which the multiple citation is placed is the information in that sentence is common among researchers. So for example, in this sentence where it says specifically Latina and Black adolescents experience disproportionate rates of teen pregnancy, well, that information was found in each of these three sources. And same with the next sentence where we found other information, it was echoed in two studies. So this is where you're really doing that synthesis, critically analyzing those studies so you can find similarities between them. And then here are some of the references that I used for this presentation. And I invite you to make an appointment with the online writing lab, the OWL, for help with your literature reviews or anything else. We're here for you. You can scan this QR code for more information. Thank you for taking the time to listen and watch this video, and hope to see you soon on the OWL. Happy writing!